is Pinnacle Mountain.
With the rock outcrop?
With the rock outcropping. That's correct. And if you was to ever hike the Foothills Hiking Trail, you would end up going around Pinnacle Mountain and around the edge, not down on the rocks, not so close that it would be dangerous, but you would be walking around the edge of Ball Rock. That's the name of it, Ball Rock. Okay? And there was another place where we busted some marijuana. If you can look, just this side of Ball Rock, you can see a little dip down there. Well, that's the headwaters. Some people call it Pinnacle Creek. Some people call it Rachel Creek. And there was two local fellows that lived up this way that had gone up there, and there was a big rock outcropping, and they had gone and stacked rocks and made a rock wall. And they had a rock chimney, and they even had a rock shelf to make them a sandwich. They had a little cot in there. And so they weren't further than from here to the trucks from the water, where they could go over there and get them a drink of water anytime they got thirsty. And they could stay warm in that rock cave with a fire. And they had the floor rocked where they wouldn't be stepping in mud all the time. And they had a little entrance, and it was booby trapped with a 12-gauge shotgun shell. But we got a pretty good little stash of marijuana out of that, and we never did catch them. I know who they were. I know who they are. The law enforcement, sheriff's department knows who they are. But it took 3 days to find that cave, because that's some rough country right up in there. You just can't walk straight like from here. You just can't walk straight down to the store. You have to zigzag and walk around all these big, huge boulders and work your way. And we had the plane flying. Well, they were long. They were long gone. You know, but at least we weren't their little adventure, because we knew where their cave was, and we could go check it anytime we wanted to then. So that just put a big damper on that. But they were living in that cave, and it would walk up. It would walk up one of those rocks, side of those rocks, and go back over into Camp Adger, and that's where they were growing their marijuana. And so, and another thing about this Pinnacle Mountain that Franklin had taught me, and Franklin said, you know, what we do is not all that pleasant. It's hard to make a lot of friends doing this job, because you're giving somebody a ticket, and they have to pay money. But anytime you can help find somebody that's lost, that goes a long way. And I'm sorry to say, and you might tell me, but our department does not do that anymore.
Not nearly as much as State Park. You know, sometimes they get called in, but we don't. I don't think our law enforcement guys really train in search and rescue.
Well, we never did.
Yeah.
We did one time. They sent me down to Columbia on search and rescue. But you just learn. You can just learn in the field. And you get out there and you're another set of eyes. Just to help look. And if you know the area, you might be able to help and advise where you would look. But that's one thing Franklin did. He'd get a call from the sheriff's department. 9 times out of 10, it was Sheriff Stone. He said, Franklin, we got a report of some young folks lost up there on the hiking trail, and we need somebody to go find them. And Franklin would get his fruit, get some water, whatever, and he'd go all day and all night. And he'd find them every time. As long as he had a starting point, he'd find them. I was at home one Saturday night watching a movie, and about 10 o'clock at night, and it was cold. The low that night was 14 degrees. It's in December of 96. '96, I think. But anyway, got a report from one of the ladies over here that there was 7 or 8 horseback riders that had gone up, and they had plans of riding all the way to Sassafras Mountain. Well, you can't do that. Okay? You cannot ride to Sassafras unless you know the exact little pig trail to follow. You can't get there. You got to know. So you got to have somebody as a guide, or you better done it a couple times yourself. You can do it, but you better know what you're doing. Well, of course they didn't make it to Sassafras Mountain. They went up this ridge here, this ridge they call Long Ridge, this first ridge, and they ended up.
Which one is it? Which is Long Ridge?
All right past these first trees you see.
The first ridge, huh?
It's that first ridge in the background. Okay, and you follow the top of that ridge, and it goes up to Pinnacle Mountain. Okay, and there's a hiking trail up there. When you get to the top of Long Ridge, long before you get to the top of Pinnacle, the hiking trail comes through there. And there was a sign up there. It said Sassafras Mountain. But somebody had busted the little arrow below it that says Sassafras Mountain that way. Okay? So they got up there and they said, well, we're here at Sassafras Mountain. Half of them decided they're going to turn back and go back down. That's a pretty good little hike even for a good horse. Okay? And then there was a man with a mule, a young boy with a horse. He was an inexperienced rider, and a young girl that was a little more experienced, but she had got scared, and she didn't want to get back on her horse. They decided they're just going to keep on riding and make a circle. And you can do that. If you're walking, make a circle and go all the way back to Table Rock State Park. But it's not suitable for a horse. It's very, very dangerous for a horse to make that. And it was getting dark. So they got up there, it got dark on them, and they just sat down and made them a fire. And, so we just got to stay here until tomorrow morning. And so this lady called. She said her husband was up there by himself, and he had gotten lost in the watershed the year before, and she was really worried because he almost died. It rained, it was cold, and it was raining on him. I said, Jeannie, would it make you more comfortable if I came on up there and started looking? She said, I wish you would. So I said, well, I always kept my four-wheeler in the back of my truck just to be ready to go at any moment. That four-wheeler is hard to load and unload in the dark. I came up here and I said, well, Jeannie, there's bound to be some people up there. Bound to be some people. She said, yes, they're up here, Hound Dog, and they're all hanging around that van, eating donuts and drinking coffee. There ain't nobody in the woods. I said, well, that's about par for the course sometimes, especially as cold as it is. So I come on up there. 2 of our game wardens was up here. I just drove on by them. But before I got there, I was coming down this 178. I heard the helicopter. The helicopter was on the radio. They brought the helicopter up from Columbia. I said, oh Lord. I said, they're taking this thing serious. And one of the game wardens said, I got a game warden down here, knows the area real well. If you can park that helicopter down here in this golf course, he'll ride with you. He said, I got the small helicopter, and I can't take on a passenger right now until I unload some fuel. I got to burn up some fuel. I got on the radio, I said, well, while you burning up some of that fuel, I said, are you familiar where Table Rock State Park is in relation to the golf course? He said, yes, I am. I said, would you look down Highway 11? There's a big rock outcropping about halfway in between, and that comes off of Pinnacle Mountain. I said, would you mind riding your helicopter around on the back side of Pinnacle Mountain and see if you could see? Well, it was a very, very clear night, no clouds. All of that is hardwoods, no pine trees. They had them a fire like that, which it basically stuck out like striking a match in a dark room. In 7 minutes, he found them. He said, I'm looking at a fire right now with 3 horses and 3 people. Got my spotlight on. I said, I'm almost down here to 178 and Highway 11. I said, how about keep your spotlight on so I can see where you're at? And I said, I see where you're at. I said, I'll be coming up there shortly. And I just drove on by everybody. Went on up there and parked my 4-wheeler. And they said, where are you going? I said, I'm going on up the mountain. Go get them. So we got search and rescue. I said, well, that's all right. Send them on up there. I'm going to follow up behind them. We got up there to the top where you couldn't go no more. We had to get out and walk. And they walked about 100 yards, turned around, got back on their 4-wheelers and came back down and left me up there by myself. And I found Terry's husband, Jeannie's husband, Terry, and we went on up there and found them. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We walked them all the way back down, you know, and that girl had her father waiting on her, and she just went to bawling and crying. She was playing big girl to start with because she saw her daddy. Then when she saw her daddy, she went to bawling and crying and, you know, hugging on him. But people don't forget that. People love those. People love that. They'll never forget that. You see. But that's what Franklin taught me. That's the kind of game warden he was. He said, drop what you're doing and go help that person. When that person's lost or hurt, drop what you're doing and go help them. It don't matter whether you're working, scheduled to work or not. But I sincerely believe that Franklin, growing up in this area, you know, learning what he learned in that church and the work ethics that his daddy taught him, it made him into the man he is today. You know, there's a lot of people that describe Franklin as a game warden's game warden, or a mountain man's mountain man, or the, you know, the best game warden that ever lived. I don't know the best way to describe him. You can say all of those things about him. But we're going to go up here to the top, and we're going to let anybody talk that wants to talk, and then I'm going to tell you just a couple of stories that I know about Franklin that'll help you understand the type of man he is and why I respect him so much. Because I worked with some very good game wardens in this state. Okay, I'm not one of them, but I have worked with some very good game wardens, and so. But I've never worked with anybody like Franklin.
Found out.
Yes, sir.
The original church is at Lake Toxaway State Park.
Is that right?
On Highway 11. The original one that Franklin and I grew up in.
Yeah.
And was really the original church. We've been asked several times. They saw pictures of it, and why did they tear it down? Well, it's restored at the on Highway 11, where 130 comes into Highway 11.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Been there, done that a many times. There
Yes.
was a pot bellied stove. That's how they heated the church.
Yeah.